Well, good morning, all. It's 11:30. We'll go ahead and get started with the pre-commission agenda. I don't have a president's report. Are there any general housekeeping items or discussion of the agenda from commissioners? Commissioner Pickering?
Yeah, thanks, President Gold. I just want to say thank you to our amazing team, working through all of the who knows what's coming weather moments over the last week or so. So just want to flag that and all of the prep that goes into even when we don't have a big event. So thanks for that.
Commissioner McKinney, did you have something? Then I will turn it over to the director.
Wonderful. Thank you, President Gold Commission. It's a pleasure to see you. Having just seen you recently, we do have an update today on Eckert Road and answers to some of the questions that were asked on Friday. But we are grateful for your support and the quick efforts that have been ongoing, both from staff who has been working very nonstop on this topic, ITD, who has had additional consultants out there over the weekend looking at this. They have prioritized this and are going to be we're going to be meeting later this week with some additional recommendations from them and some presentation of some options on that side, as well as some additional things that I'll share with you today on some positive front there. I did just on that front let you know I did present to the Boise City Council yesterday and am visiting with the Board of County Commissioners this afternoon on this as well. So here we are. Let's build some things. Wanted to give you a quick update on the move to Meeker. We have now exited the orchard site and have worked on all the repairs that are necessary for that. So we are going to be able to complete that lease and get our deposit back and all of those fun things that are connected with that. Unfortunately, there has been a little bit of an impact on the moving inside. Lighting, which we're excited to announce, finally arrived as of today. It was ordered at the very beginning, and it has had some pretty significant delays to get here. But that is the biggest holdup in the process right now, is getting that lighting in. That said, as soon as it's done, we'll definitely have you come take a visit. It's looking very good, though. It's very positive what we've been able to accomplish for phase one and the progress that will be, and excited for the team to be able to move in there. For now, all that staff is either working from home or here in the building in different nooks and crannies. And we're working quickly on that. The other thing that has caused us a little bit of a delay is when the fire went through and looking at the building, found that their radios could not communicate from one side of the building to the other. And so we do need to install some additional boosters to make sure those radios work, because we want to make sure everyone's safe in the building. So now our anticipated move-in date will be February 24th, and the team's been made aware of that. So we're hoping next week. It's going to be a little bit longer before we can finalize that. And obviously that is subject to getting final approval from the city through the inspections. The team has worked hard this week with a little bit of extra snow that's come in. They were out there Sunday evening working, getting the roads ready, and that worked well. This week is definitely going, it's been a little warmer, but unfortunately for Thursday and Friday, it's looking like it's going to cool down real fast. And we always hope for good weather, but the team is prepared and very much ready to make assessments and to determine the best place to deploy our resources. And just wanted to make sure you're aware of the good work that the team is doing, and we're grateful for their commitment to come in anytime at any point to make sure that people are safe. Had the pleasure to use a little bit of my Spanish skills this week, and even had an interview on KTVB in Espanol. That was a fun experience. It's nice to have staff here that I could practice with and just be prepared, but we've definitely received a very positive response from the community ultimately, and especially through the press and getting the story out on Eckert, and seeing that. Now, people are, obviously, it's an inconvenience. They understand that. And there are the few that are asking the questions, why didn't we know sooner? But ultimately, what I'll show you today, we've been following the process very successfully, and we've been trying to get the information out there to all members of our community, and are grateful for the press in helping us get that story out. So just as a recap, on Eckert Road Bridge, we did have that preliminary review meeting with ITD. Those were the recommendation and urgent recommendation from their consultant in making that and recommending that weight restriction. The declaration of an emergency is helpful in this process, as it's led to some additional conversations and helpful with. I'll share with you some funding that's even come out of that conversation. And we have a ratification of that decision on today's agenda, just to make sure that we have documentation that we can use for that. We had the press conference. We have not had a press conference like that in a very long time, and very grateful for the team and all the work that they did to prepare. Rachel, our public communications officer, our public information officer, is very good at what she did for not having ever done one of those here at the Highway District. All the information is out on the website, all the reports, all of those things have been there, as well as we've had good coverage. And so it's been very, very positive. Wanted to answer some of the questions of how did we get here on this, and give some of the information on the inspection history. So all bridges over 20 feet are inspected by ITD on a 2-year basis. And this bridge is no exception to that. So it was inspected in 18, 20, 22, 24. What has changed in this inspection process, and you can see here some of the recommendations that have come out of each of those different reports. In 2019, our team attended a conference and identified a different methodology for inspecting. It's called the resistivity. Did I say that? Resistogram, some a tool that basically shoots a needle into the wood and tests the different resistance that occurs. It was a new method that we were learning about at that point in time, and decided to try it. And so we contracted something in 2019 to look at this bridge. You can see the results of that. The level of decay that we saw with our most recent inspection was definitely not there. And the recommendation was continue to monitor through the standard inspection process. In 2020, we also contracted and paid to have that same type of test done as part of that inspection. And at that time, there were 2 piers with mild decay. And so again, the recommendation was place some riprap, no major concerns identified. And in 2020, it wasn't, we didn't go that route because the recommendation was follow the standard inspection process. So when we did this in 2024, as part of the discussion of replacing the bridge, we decided to do that same type of test again. The other thing we found out is that type of test has become more of a standard practice today than it was 5 years ago. And so it's included as part of the inspections that are done. And so that, as we looked at that, we looked pretty heavily at the bridge, and that's where we found the more major decay.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering?
Yeah, thank you. So Ryan, is the type of testing that was done prior to this last one, is that the same type of test that they do for all wooden type bridges, or are there different, was this, yeah, I think that's my first question.
Yes, Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, the type of inspection it's a very standard practice that they do for all bridges, including wooden bridges.
Including wooden bridges, okay. Because that's what I was wondering, like, is there nuance with this bridge that maybe it didn't fit within the normal standard evaluation procedure, that maybe there was something that was missed because the test wasn't the right fit? Madam
President, Commissioner Pickering, I I don't think the inspection history shows that. What we have heard in talking with some of the bridge experts, the state bridge engineer, is that what tends to happen is once these do begin to decay, they decay very quickly.
Mhm.
It's not linear, it's exponential. At least that's the way that they've explained this. The other challenge is when they do begin to decay, they decay from the inside and then move out. And so further complicated by the fact that there are, they call them fenders that are along the bridge that cover the piers to help kind of strengthen them against each other. And so you're not able to see the piers as well through that process. And so this additional testing that we've been able to do helps get past that
Right.
and has helped us see kind of the greater issues that are
Well, I
here.
think just one more follow-up really quick, Madam President. I think I'm really proud that you guys are working really closely with ITD because obviously this is one of only two types of bridges we have in our footprint. But I'm worried about, what falls outside of our jurisdiction. So hopefully there's also lessons learned from this experience that ITD can also use to inform how they approach these types of bridges across the entire state. So just really appreciate and want to flag that collaboration.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, just with regards to the timeline, Ryan, that says how many problems we discovered in 2024. That was a lot. And we didn't hear anything about it till 2025. I'm wondering what the delay was about.
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, 2024, that was November of 2024. That's what that's what brought us to this point. So they did the initial inspection. They were processing the data that led to the meeting on last Friday with the consultant where we got the results and the weight restriction recommendation. So the inspection actually occurred at the very end of last year.
I think point of clarification. So they did this inspection in 2024, November of 2024, and then they did another deeper inspection with going into the wood.
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, no, that was the test in November 2024. So it took a month as they processed the results, or I guess 2 months as they processed the results to then bring those to us.
So that is 2024 did not get published until just last week.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's typical how long the inspection process takes.
That's also a bit concerning. I think just want to air that. Like we could have something underneath and, oh, we didn't know about it for a month and a half. So maybe that's really concerning, which is not on us, but that doesn't seem like a really evidence-based process. But I think it could be confusing with it saying it's 2024 when we took action in 2025. So I don't know if there's a way to communicate that a little bit more clearly, that was just part of the normal timeline, but I think we're probably going to get questions about that just because that is a long time.
Okay.
I have questions.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And I watched the update to City Council. I thought that was very good. One thing to piggyback on Commissioner Pickering's comment, if there's an opportunity for ITD to maybe work with U of I or the wood technology and research to really examine that, and this might be a good research project to inform just the United States, wherever these bridges are, and maybe be a case study, in the exponential decay. I mean, here we are. I mean, we have good data to show that. And then while the bridge is closed in the interim, I was thinking it might be, I'm not sure where the permanent stations are, but if we could put up some pedestrian and bicycle counters, I think it'd be interesting to look at that demand without the auto traffic. So I'll just throw that out there and let you guys mull on that. I don't know if those are still available, if we have any, or if we can get what Compass used to have. But
yeah. Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner Nelson. We can take a look at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and Commission, I don't want to create alarm that they were just sitting on this as they were going through the process of processing the data. It also sounds like the resistivity testing is more standard practice now as part of their review of these types of bridges. So I don't want to create alarm that they fail, but it does beg that question. We've been asking that too. And so I think that will be something that's important. We do appreciate the consultants for bringing it forward as an initial review as they were looking at this and saying, we do recommend you weight restrict this.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I did, ran into a member of the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association. They have a meeting next Thursday. I've already committed to another public meeting that night. They don't necessarily, he didn't necessarily say they wanted someone from ACHD to give an update, but they would be willing to, and they did a very good job even Friday, sending out information on their listserv. And
Okay.
so if there's something where we can engage both the Southeast neighborhood and Barber Valley, I'm sure they would be happy to provide links to our project website to encourage people on how to stay up to date on this project. So
Great.
thank you. Maybe it's already been done.
So as far as next steps, as mentioned, we are working with ITD. They typically, once they've received the results and any recommendation, they do a further evaluation. Usually it takes about a month. They're doing it in a week for us, and are working very hard on that. As part of that, they are looking at any interim treatments that they've used in other places, and we will bring that back to you. Really, we don't believe any interim treatment should impact the desire to replace the bridge altogether. We knew that that was needed, but if it allows us a little bit more option for not impacting the public in the interim, we'll look at that and we'll give that to you as an option. Funding and budget, I'll share with you a thought here in just a second on this. We've already met with some of with our consultant on this, and are looking at getting this going as quickly as possible and utilizing the process that we used when we did the Cloverdale Bridge, which was in meeting decisions, designs happening kind of not on the fly, but really as quickly as possible and accomplishing and making those expedited decisions. One of the things that came up yesterday in talking to the city council is some of the features that we've been talking about for a very long time in replacing this bridge, which includes the green belt does not go underneath the Eckert Road Bridge in this section. And so that was one of the questions that did come up yesterday is, well, does this exclude that? Our commitment is that we know this is a 100-year decision. We don't want to delay the process, but we know this is a 100-year decision when we're replacing a bridge. And so we want to make sure that we have everyone at the table and they've committed to having staff at the table in those conversations as well. One of the exciting things that happened this week, if you call it exciting, we did get a phone call from LTAC this on Monday morning, first thing, letting us know that the Leading Idaho Local Bridge Program has funds for bridges that are weight restricted and in these types of conditions. We had previously submitted an application for this program for the Healy Bridge, which is the New York Canal Bridge right in that area, because that was the only bridge that we had that was weight restricted at that time. But because this bridge is now at this point, they allowed us to amend our application, and we'll be having a discussion tomorrow. They have a board meeting tomorrow to hear our request and look at funding this as an emergency project to get that going. How that process works is LTAC actually supplements the local highways. They project manage the projects. They've done this now for a few years. They have good relationships with the Corps. They submit the applications early on. And so that is the proposal. We want obviously to be heavily involved in that, and we wouldn't just be handing over a project to say, go get it done, but rather we'd be as heavily involved, and we have our staff dedicated to accomplishing that. But we're hopeful that tomorrow will be a positive outcome in this, and that we'll have funding to get the project done. So that's particularly exciting news. So with that, Commission, that ends my conversation on that particular topic. Just to give you a few items that are coming up. These are primarily public meetings that our staff will be in attendance at for different projects and things that are ongoing. We also have our Commercial Developers Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow. The office is closed on the 17th for President's Day. The Collister Neighborhood Association will be attending on the 11th. We're kind of in a random order here. But
Mhm.
17th, 11th, just for fun. There's been a few things going on. But the Collister Neighborhood Association will be talking about the State and Pierce Park project and the traffic mitigation that we're going to be doing as part of that, and the impacts to the neighborhood there. And then there are some upcoming meetings on Highway 16, as well as the Build the Boise bench, which is the access to opportunity project. We're kind of pivoting with some of the changes that have happened with that legislation and funding, so that we're still committed to those projects. We just have adapted the name a little bit there to fit in with the new requirements that came out quickly on that application. So lots going on over the next few weeks, and with that, Commission, I'll stand for any questions.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Thank you. Ryan, I saw like a picture of Eckerd Bridge and just a very small, normal, or easily removable road construction sign, like bridge closed. What's the status in like actually closing it down so that folks cannot drive on it? Like, what's the status of that?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, we have Jersey barrier
good.
in place.
I wasn't
that
sure
was-
if that was
That
like,
was just at the bridge.
okay,
But we have installed Jersey barrier on both ends
Great.
to prevent people.
that was what I was hoping for. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'll just clarify that the Collister meeting is for the Transportation Committee and it's not a
Okay.
full board meeting.
Okay.
So just
Wonderful.
clarify that. And thanks for the update on all of the collaborative work that's going into expedite solutions for the Eckerd Bridge. And we look forward to updates, and thanks for, keeping all of those posted on the project page on the website too, so the public's aware.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we will be at ease until noon. All right, it's now 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks to everyone joining us in person and online. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next order of business is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. I don't believe we have any of those requests.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
I'd like to request that item number 3 on the consent agenda be moved perhaps to place 2 on the regular agenda, just so that we can get a little more information from our fleet manager. I understand that the director has called the fleet manager to be here just to give us a little information on that. So for that reason, I request the number 3 be put on the regular agenda.
Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion?
Yeah, and I will move then that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that moves us to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is a presentation of the Road Scholars and Road Masters, Cheney Roads.
Madam Chairman and Board.
Welcome.
I'm excited to be here today. You guys have broke a record for your organization, so I'm really excited about that. One of the things that I'll cover, you guys seen me with like 6 months ago, excited to be back, is the goal is to have more training and more opportunities, and we're privileged to have ACHD be such a big organization that we see a lot of your employees there, which helps us, and you've offered rooms for us to help train and stuff, which is huge when we're limited on training space. But so just a quick recap: Road Scholars, 80 hours, 7 core classes, 4 electives. Your Road Masters, another 80 hours, 4 core classes, and 5 electives. And at the last time I stood before commission, we were talking about the leadership program as well. And so just because you have your Road Masters, that's not the end of the line for them. There's another program for them. We call it the Leadership Development Program, but we're going to kind of change that name a little bit, and Leadership and Professional Development, because in our leadership program, there are classes that maybe it's just your employees that they could take, and it's not so much your leadership. The other area, as I traveled around the state this year, is there's a lot of turnover, and there's a lot of agencies that have employees that 4 hours I've had as the comment they've been with the jurisdiction, and I've had it clear up to still the 30 plus years, but a majority is the 4 hours to about 3.5 years. 6 and 7 years anymore is kind of a long-term employee as I travel around. When 20 years ago, 7 years was our new employee. And so when you look at some of the trainings in the leadership, mastering management, transition to leadership, organization of a local highway agency, those are ones that our newer employees, I feel, as they come up the ranks or they become employees, need to know all about that. The other one I had mentioned to you guys, we were in the process of creating 2 more classes. That was completed. And you guys actually allowed us to, in your new building, to have the trial run of that class. And that was team building and communication. It was a hit. 3 of your individuals I received emails from that it was the best, most uncomfortable, informative class they'd ever been in. And we get feedback, but to have your leaders respond back, that's huge for me when you're taking a chance to get these classes out there. It hit where we wanted it to. And one of the classes, so yesterday the training opened for the spring sessions. By 6:45 AM, 7 of the classes already had wait lists. And some of them were the leadership classes as well. So bad problem for me because now I have to figure out wait lists and instructors, but good problem for all of us in our jurisdictions in there. The other one was working with all generations. That class is on the spring schedule as well. It's one of the professors at Boise State. If it's anything like the first class they presented, I'm super, super excited. In the process of doing that, here's one of the classes that's not in the leadership program, but it is now an elective, and it's a building a culture of accountability. And in my world, where I come from, everybody from our frontline to our top management, we all need that culture of accountability. So I'm excited to see that class play out this spring as well, and hopefully we'll get a few more classes for the fall. But I can't thank you guys enough for supporting that. Commissioner Goldthorpe, you've actually been in some of my classes, and I was telling Don, I asked him out front, why are you here? Because I just don't see this in all the miles and the classes. And it was to see why the budgets are raising and to see what's needed for his organization. I can't thank you enough for that. That's cool to have that support, knowing that from the commission, not just leadership at the other levels, is backing the training that our infrastructure needs. So again, thank you, sir, for attending those. 174 are all, excuse me, with these graduates, ACHD has employees that have completed 174 road scholars. With that, 126 road scholars are still here today. You have 141 roadmasters that have completed, and you still have 105 of them here today. So the training that you guys are providing stays within your jurisdiction, which is huge. The cool thing about this is you have never had 100 roadmasters ever at ACHD. So that's what I was telling you why I'm so excited to be here is you have 105 employees, and counting Commissioner Goldthorpe, that have received the roadmaster certificate, which is phenomenal for an agency. The information that you guys gain from that is amazing for you guys as you move forward. So as a commission, when you're looking at the agenda and you see that training budget, I appreciate you. Thank you for that. So if I could, we'll go ahead and start with the road scholars. We'll do that. And then typically we go out and take the pictures, but since this is kind of special with the 100 roadmasters, if we could get a picture with everyone lined up on the road scholars in here and then another picture with the roadmasters, I'd sure appreciate it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So our first road scholar, Greg Woods. Brock Cormier. And push it back. Jake Liu. Leslie Wardlaw. Then we have Matt McDonald. And then Jennifer Berenger. Work there.
Will that information come down?
We can have you come down and stand.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right, everybody over here. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you very much.
We'll go ahead and get started with our roadmasters. First up, Heather Friddle. Mark Gregorio. Mike McKinley. Nicole Russell.
Yeah.
Jackson Cook. Derek Fisher. Greg Fullerton. Curtis Nielsen. Ryan Stewart. Then we have Ryan Teal.
Yeah.
Scrunched together.
All right, that looks good. All right, everybody over here. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Again, Commission, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your training program. If there's ever classes that you feel out and about that you would like us to look into, just ask and we'll see if we can't pull that off for you. With that, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Janie.
Thanks, Cheney.
That's great.
All right, that moves us to item number 2, which was previously number 3 on the consent agenda. FY 2025 Piggyback of Sourcewell Purchase Agreement MD-2945, request for approval. And Joe?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having me up. For the record, Joe Schoen, Fleet Manager.
Commissioner McKinney. Oh, your mic is not on.
All right, there we go.
That's all
Thank you. Thank you for being here. In looking at the sweeper purchases, of course, these are major purchases, and I just wanted to make sure that we have a big overview, a broad view of the fleet needs in this particular area. So I guess, a few questions like, how many sweepers do we have in our total fleet? Is this purchase replacing some existing ones, or is it increasing our fleet? What's the useful life of these sweepers? What's their residual value when we're done with them? What do we do a cost benefit analysis when we're looking at replacing these? Do we look at, here's our annual maintenance cost as they get older, here's the cost of replacement, here's the residual value, and so on? Do we have all those numbers that we run before we make the decision to spend this kind of money?
Yes, okay. So, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, yes. Just to highlight, currently we have 41 sweepers.
Okay.
This would be 2 additions. We are planning on taking 4 sweepers to surplus this year. We're still working through that list. Overall, the goal is to increase our sweeper fleet. As we've increased personnel and some of the executional abilities, we've seen a need to increase on this. So 2-year project, I guess, to kind of get to this point. To answer maybe one of your questions, and if I miss one, please step in. Yes, we track to finite detail the full life cycle costs of the sweepers. So to look at when we're going to replace, which I think was one of your questions, three main components: the acquisition costs, the operational and maintenance costs, and then what is the salvage value cost. So trying to find those sweet spots before we start to get overrun by repairs and the lack of availability to go execute the job. That's really where I watch, and those are typically the cues which will start the conversation of, do we need a different type of tool in here? What's the utilization of it? What type of work are we seeing we need to go perform today? For these ones in particular, the focus was around how do we support some of the tighter corridors, like the downtown corridor. These machines are higher visibility for the operator in it. They have 360 around them because they're a little more compact in the cab region. Plus they're a three-wheel, so they're extremely maneuverable, but they're still at the capacity of our full-size sweepers. So we don't see the mobbing costs that we'd have to see on the smaller ones back and forth to dispose of the material.
Okay. So what's the typical lifespan of one of these units? How long do they last typically?
Target currently is 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
We've seen since 2020, a lot of things have recovered on the vehicle side of things, as supply chain. Sweepers is still really struggling. Some of them are 2 to 2.5 year lead times in order to get them. So that's impacted our need to hold some of these older sweepers. So we do have a couple sweepers that are at the 12 and 13-year mark.
Okay. And so you indicated that we have a fleet of 41 sweepers right now. We purchased 2 new, but you're anticipating over the course of this year, 3 will be sent away. So net, by the end of this year, we're going to be 1 down from where we
We're
are
looking
now.
at bringing other ones in. We're currently reevaluating through our adaptive sweeper management program, looking at the permitting areas and what we're doing to achieve that, and we're potentially falling short, and what type of sweeper do we need in there to hit the efficiencies that the maintenance group needs to hit those targets.
Okay. So I'm looking at this, I'm thinking if we have a, let's just in round numbers, if we have a sweeper fleet of 40 and they have a life cycle of, what did you say, 7 to 10 years?
Mhm.
Then that means we'll be replacing 3 or 4 every year.
Mhm.
So are we going to have another request later this year for some more sweepers? Okay. And what's typically the salvage value when we're done with them?
Currently at that 7 to 10, tough to say market right now, but it'd be within the 20,000 to 30,000 range.
Okay.
We are actively crunching some numbers to try to figure out if we shorten that lifespan, do we increase enough in the salvage value to offset what those numbers look like and make it more cost effective if
Okay.
we actually dispose of them earlier.
So we buy them for around 300,000. They're after, let's say 10 years, they're worth 30,000. So we're spending, what's our overall budget on the sweeper side of things? Do you have a
I
round
don't have
number?
that exact number for
Okay.
that specific one right now.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, it's obviously a significant expense,
It
so
is.
there's no doubt that we're putting significant resources into that. But it's good to know and have the overall view, so we can expect then later this year, some additional requests. My understanding, when I looked at the budget question for this particular item,
Mhm.
it showed that we had budgeted just this much for these. So is there no more budget this year for additional sweepers?
There is still budget.
There is
this
still
year,
budget for
yeah,
sweepers this year.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, I think that that answers all my questions. If anyone else has any questions, I'd be happy to.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Thank you so much. And this is more for the director, I think as newer commissioner. I think it would be worthwhile. I know we'll have budget adjustments coming to us later in the month. But it might be good to get all of the commissioners up to speed on capital budgeting and the different classes of vehicles and in the fleet and all of the math that goes into determining what you need. I think that might be a good conversation, just so everybody has that common understanding of fleet management, basically. And thank you for what you do.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yep, that's all.
Thanks, Joe. Is there a motion?
Yeah, Madam President, with that, I move that we approve the FY 2025 sweeper piggyback purchase agreement MD 2945.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 3 on the regular agenda is an authorization order of condemnation for Star Road, Main Street, SH 44, project number 823-015.002, parcel 28. Mr. Dave Sardar. This is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open that.
Madam President, Commissioners, for the record, David Serdar, right-of-way supervisor for ACHD. This is a condemnation decision briefing and public hearing. There we go. The condemnation is on the Star Road, Main Street, State Highway 44 Pathway Project. And the property is owned by Michael and Andrea Kennedy, excuse me. The project is part of ACHD's five-year work plan, and construction is scheduled to begin in fiscal year 26. As can be seen here, the acquisition is just south of State Highway 44. That's the Maverick kind of on the there we go. That's a Maverick right here, kind of on the corner. So we're just down there a couple hundred yards from the Maverick there. The orange area is the fee acquisition. The pathway and bridge structure will be located in this area. The permanent easement is the yellow, kind of the yellow crossed or hatched down on the bottom. And then the temporary construction easement is the blue, which you can see right here, and then a little bit right down there. The property size before the acquisition is 0.7 acres. The fee acquisition area is 0.039 acres, and the size after is 0.636 acres. On this property, the zoning is currently Central Business District. ACHD made the offer in July of 2024. Shortly after the offer was received on August 1st, 2024 by the property owner. In August, the property owner informed ACHD via email that they would not be signing the paperwork and that was provided. They cited loss of value in the house, insufficient compensation for the project, and they wanted the project to be designed and put on the other side of the road. In between the first email exchanges, there have been multiple emails by both parties where ACHD staff addressed the issues presented by the property owner. Ultimately, the property owner was sent a final 10-day notice in December of 2024, and ACHD right away confirmed the 10-day notice was received on December 11th, 2024. It is ACHD staff recommendation that we declare the acquisition area necessary for the project as a right-of-way and public use, authorize the staff to proceed with the condemnation action and execute an order of condemnation for the acquisition area. I will remain standing for any questions.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, and that's the slide I wanted you to go back to. Where exactly is this pathway going to be?
On the bridge, Madam
Will
President,
it be
Commissioner.
close to the road or close to the temporary construction easement? How far from the road?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I don't know the exact distance, but the orange you see there, it's going to be a separate bridge from the road that goes there for the
Yeah,
pathway.
the reason why I ask is because, and perhaps a project manager or somebody who knows could answer this, is that yellow hash mark looks like it's really close to that house.
Brian McCarthy, the manager of right-of-way and project management. The pathway will be in a separated pedestrian bridge that will be in that yellow hatched area, as Dave mentioned. The proximity to the house to the right-of-way acquisition area is about 20 feet away from the corner of the building there.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question I had was if you could break down how we made our offer and where you think the sticking points are on there and what the offer has been.
Sure. Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, we made the offer, so our offer was essentially, we used about $36,000. There was the appraisal that we did, we always do an appraisal and an appraisal review. They looked at the proximity to the house and determined that there was no damages on that. Both because of the zoning being central business district, as well as that 20 feet is right about the area where we would start to incur damages when we get closer.
From the history of the zoning there, was this house in place when that zoning was changed to central district?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I don't know specifically, but I would imagine so. It's an older house.
So unless the owner of the property at the time appeared at the hearing and complained, I would think that having your home in a central business district, if you sold the whole property, would be a good thing. But when you're looking at something like this, this is just me thinking, because that's what you pay me to do, is that it might actually do some damages to the value of that home. So I'm kind of understanding where the property owner is coming from there.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Dave, if you'll know the answer, but I am curious on, was this project, it got into the 5-year plan, was this a priority of the city? Or, how did this come into our funding plan? What was the impetus for the project? Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Nielsen, President Gold. This has been on the city's list for project requests going back at least 3 or 4 years now.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
yeah, I have some questions, and some of my questions maybe aren't necessarily for our right-of-way, but our director might need to address these. And let me sort of preface it this way. The power of eminent domain is one of the most potentially dangerous powers that government has. The power to force a private person to sell their property to the government. And there are 2 safeguards that are put in place. The one is that we have to pay fair market value. And of course, there are always arguments about what's fair market value. And that's something we understand going in. But the more important one is that of public necessity. And that's where I'm having some troubles here. As I read the staff report, there was a statement about public necessity, and it indicated that the public necessity for this project had something to do with the Ustick and Black Cat Road intersection reconstruction, which is about 5 miles away. So that confused me in the first place, because of course there's no connection between those two. And second, this stretch of Star Road from Highway 44 across the Boise River is already something that's in our 5-year plan. It's not funded at this point, from what I understand, but it's something we're looking down the road. We understand that this section of Star Road is going to need to be widened and so on. And it may be 5 or 10 years from now, but it may be 15 years from now, but it's in the plan. It's certainly foreseeable. And given that the city of Star has rezoned this area, central business district, it's going to redevelop. This area is going to develop, and developers are going to have to improve their frontage and do a variety of things along the way. Likewise, my concern here is, doing this pathway project when we know that in the very near future, we're going to rebuild the whole road. And when we do that, we'll be building pathways as well. I'm concerned that we're building something that we know may not last very long. It may just have to be torn out, maybe just little bits of it, but maybe a lot of it may have to be torn out and redone just 10 or 15 years from now. So that's a concern from the sort of public necessity side of things. So my first,
Sorry, just a point of clarification. This is a main street and not Star Road.
this is Star
No, it's
Road.
Star Road.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
so,
sorry. Thanks.
so my first question is, what is this pathway project? What's its extent and what's its total cost? What size of a project are we talking about for this pathway?
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, I'll let Brian answer the question on total cost. And your questions are valid. That's what the commission is here to ask these questions. This particular project was the priority of the city as they have created a river walk and a major destination in downtown Star that connects off of Main Street. So recognizing the extent and the cost of the overhaul that it will be when we do widen the Star Road from 44 to 2026, that's it's a big project.
Right.
And that's going to take some time. They recognized and separated out this request so that we could address the safety concerns and the needs that are in this area in anticipation of that future project. So trying to get people down to where they can reach that major destination by other means than driving, where parking is limited in that area. They wanted to make sure that people could access that prior to that future project. So the intent is that we will be building this in a way that and we always seek to do that in a way that anticipates that future project, so that this would be able to stay in place for that future project. Obviously, we have to always look at elevations and other things to try and make that work, but we do take that in mind so that this is building out in support of that future project as well.
Okay, well, because I'm concerned, not just the pathway itself, but even this pathway bridge, of course, when Star Road is reconstructed in this area, that bridge over the Kennedy Lateral will surely be replaced by a new structure. And in which case the bridge that we're proposing here might just be suddenly obsolete. So we might spend this, a significant chunk of money here on something that only gets used for a short period of time. And so that's part of my concern. And so like I say, my sticking point is the public necessity side of this. Do we really have a need for, the property is necessary for the project? I guess my question is whether the project is necessary. That's my concern.
Madam President, Commissioner Steve Price, General Counsel for the record. And I don't know why, but for the years that I've been here, there's always some question about public necessity and what it means. Public necessity is a legal term of art, and it has meaning. And you're absolutely correct, Commissioner McKinney. We have to pay just compensation, and we have to demonstrate public necessity. Now, I only want to tell you this because it's important for how you operate in making decisions about projects. The question that you're posing is a question that should have been brought up when we were looking at the integrated 5-year work program. That's the time. But all of the effort that the commission and staff does to demonstrate public necessity, all the courts look at it as, was the public involved? Was there adequate public notice? Did you notify your city or municipal partners or county partners? Did they opine that they believe that this project's necessary? And so we have it in all these plans, we have it in our budget. We do our communications department does great outreach on these projects. And when we get positive feedback on those, where the public says, yeah, well, we like the project, but we would prefer you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or do this. We rarely get an objection to a project. But that threshold for public necessity is satisfied with that project being in a list that goes out to the public, the commission has a public hearing on, and adopts the project. So in terms of this project, we have blown away the requirement of public necessity when you look at all the things and all the plans and all the documents. So really, the question is this project a good idea at this time? But that, again, that's a question that should come up with the 5-year work program, not on the eve of when we're condemning a piece of right-of-way for a project. And so I only bring this up because I don't want there to be any future confusion. And if you would like more explanation on the whole issue of public necessity. It's a legal term. It's stuff that my department deals with, and that we ensure that in our projects and when we go to condemnation, we've satisfied that criteria, including fair market value. So does that help?
Well, it does. No, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I think from a purely legal standpoint, we can say that we've met the public necessity prong. There's the additional side of it is this, and this is something that as a commission, where I think we have room for improvement. That is to say, and what our council has said regarding the 5-year plan is absolutely true. I have, for many years, been very vocal about my concern that our community programs budget is too large, larger than it ought to be. And a lot of these community programs projects, here's the thing, public necessity for a highway widening can be shown with objectively measured numbers, vehicle volumes, delay to traffic, those sorts of things. None of our community programs typically have that kind of objective justification. And that's one of my big concerns, is that we say, we have a plan, our 5-year plan and our master street map, as far as roadways and motor vehicle traffic is concerned, that's based on crunching the numbers for where do we have the biggest delay, where do we have the biggest traffic jams, and so on. The community programs projects are not analyzed in that way because they're not based on numbers. They're based upon, we really want a path here, we really want a path there. And that's the problem here. I look at that, that's why it strikes me as, a public necessity issue in this case. In other words, the public necessity from the roadway standpoint and the community program standpoint are two slightly different, they're looked at in different ways. The justifications are different. And so that's my concern here. So I guess the only and so in any event, that's my concern with these sorts of programs. My only remaining question then is about the cost, and that I guess you had mentioned that our project manager could probably fill me in on that. I'd like to hear about that.
Thank you. And Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, the only other thing that I would add before Brian comes up and just shares you the overall cost, one of the benefits we have with doing these independent pedestrian bridges is that we have been able to reuse them. So in the event when we do build the road project, that these types of facilities we've been able to pick up and relocate and use over other canals. And so it's not a one-time cost that's lost when the future project comes in place, but those bridges are something that we're able to reuse in other locations, and we've been successful at doing that in other places in the county. Just to give you some idea of some cost savings and the greater benefit of this. Right.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
This will integrate into what you're going to say next anyway. I've watched for a few years as the mayor of Star and the city council there have considered the Riverwalk projects to be like a crowning jewel of what they want to do with their city. And I know where some of the access points are, and they're on the other side of the road down by the river. So I'm wondering out loud here why we decided, or the city decided, whoever decided, to build this on this side of the road.
Yeah, Commissioner Goldthorpe, President Gold, the west side was chosen for a few reasons. One, there's quite a bit of residential development along the west side already, so there will be more expected use coming from the west side. There's also some existing sidewalk already in place. This project will tie into that sidewalk and make it a 10-foot wide area. So we'll be utilizing some of the existing sidewalk.
Where's it gonna cross over to the east side?
And then there is going to be a pedestrian hybrid beacon just north of Main Street to get across Star Road to get to the Riverwalk area. The east side of the road also has some challenges with the existing terrain. There's a steeper drop off on the east side of the road, so we'd be looking at retaining walls and higher project
When I
costs.
get by the river, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's especially just south of this location here as well, on the east side of the road, there's some grade changes as well. To answer the question on construction cost, it would be just over $1 million for overall construction, which would be the about 3/4 of a mile of the pathway, the pedestrian bridge, and also the pedestrian hybrid beacon.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Thanks. Brian, I don't know if this is a question for you or for Dave, but regardless of the pedestrian bridge or not in the short term, we still need this right of way, right, for the overall bridge design to also adhere to our policies as well. Is that correct?
The right-of-way acquisition would be required for any future widening as well.
Right, and which is the goal of this bridge project, correct? Right, thank you.
Commissioner Nielsen.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks for all your work on this. So I think we have a project in the 5-year work program, and I'm ready to make a motion as part of this. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, you would take testimony. But this has been a priority, and when it's in the 5-year work program, it's been scoped out. The Star Road project has also been scoped out. I don't see any conflict there. That would have been brought up years ago, I would think. And I think this is pretty narrow. And with the growth in Star and their planning efforts, I don't think it's really the time or place for us to question the city leaders of Star and their priorities. So, but I'm open to hear testimony on that for whoever's here to speak to that. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, Dave, if you don't have anything else, I'll ask for if there's anybody in person or online that would like to provide testimony on this. All right, looks like we don't have anyone, so I will close the public hearing. And commissioners, do you have any comments or motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I move that we authorize and order condemnation for Star Road, Main Street, State Highway 44 project number 823015.002 as recommended and presented.
There's a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any
Madam-
discussion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I just want to say thanks to staff, and I want to say thanks to the city of Star as well. Kind of to go back, like this was actually my first experience about 12 years ago when I did a walk audit in Star with several staff members that are here today, and got to walk with who was not the mayor at the time, but was going to be the mayor, Trevor Chadwick, about just the needs of Star Road even back then. And just the needs that they have that are so acute, and similar to what Commissioner Goldthorpe said, of just about their vision. And this takes time, right? It takes investments, it takes time. The constituents have long been advocates for these types of crossings and safety in place so that it's easier to have the conversation about the design because they know that we've already done our homework to create space for whatever it is that they need. So I think this is a pretty simple request. It's in alignment with the city's priorities. They've been communicating about those for quite some time. And I urge everyone else to support it. Thank you.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, I am just still struggling because with this particular ask and with this particular level of compensation, because I don't just see this as someone looking to sell their property to have a pathway 20 feet away from their house. I see it as someone selling their property, seeing a 5-lane road 20 feet away from their house. And for that reason, I don't think what we're offering is enough, and I won't be supporting this.
Commissioner Nielsen.
Yeah, I just want to say that the context of this project in a central business district of a rapidly growing city, I think has much transportation merit and return on investment for the businesses that will be in downtown Star. That I think it's as important that the pedestrian realm, that there are adequate, safe pedestrian facilities within their central business district. So.
Madam President, just one comment.
McKinney.
I think the fact is, again, in the foreseeable future, not too many years down the line, this entire section of road is going to be rebuilt. Multi-use pathways will be included along with it, and all of these concerns will be addressed then. I'm concerned about addressing them in this way with this particular project. So as I've said, my major concern is not specifically with this property acquisition, because this property will have to be acquired, at least a portion of it, at some point in the future, no matter what we do. But this piecemeal approach and under this project is what concerns me. The justification for the project itself, as opposed to just doing the whole road and having this all done in one fell swoop, makes more sense to me.
Well, I will be in support of the motion. I want to echo the other supportive comments that this has been a priority of the cities for a number of years, and that this is a step in the direction of their ultimate, goal for this area and creating pedestrian connectivity and safety. And, the use and priorities of Star Road has changed over time. And so I just think that it's important to move forward on this now as that continues to develop. Having that connectivity for pedestrians is really important, and acquiring the right of way at this time to move forward is prudent. So with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No.
Okay, motion carries. That moves us to number 4 on the agenda, Fairview Avenue and Locust Grove Road and Fairview Avenue, Locust Grove Road, SC 5 Eagle Road, Consultant Design Supplemental Agreement Number 11, request for approval. Welcome, Seth.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Seth Jarsky, Senior Project Manager with Right Away and Project Management Group. I'm here today to answer questions about the Fairview item on the agenda.
Yes, I'm the one that asked for it to be moved, and we've had so many requests for this particular area of town for the different projects that we have on Locust Grove and Fairview that I've become confused. And one of the things that I'm confused about is did we ask for a survey in our original bid to go out for this project? Was there a survey required?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, did we ask for a survey as part of the design contract, the original?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, we did, absolutely.
And we got a bid back for it, correct? For the design of this project, or is this?
That would have been included in the original and following supplemental agreements as part of the consultants team.
Okay, so my question is, why are they asking for more money now when they submitted a hard bid last time?
So the additional funds in front of you today are, so the consultant can complete 100% construction documents and perform record of survey services.
Was that not contemplated earlier?
No.
Okay, I just don't understand why not.
Because in short, the design of this project started in 2019, and here we are in 2025. And it's typical that the consultant will be under contract to perform services up to 99% design. And then there'll be a follow-up supplemental to complete hundreds and the record of survey.
Okay, well, that answers my question then. I'm good. I just, as I already expressed, I'm sitting here, okay, we're at 99%. Now we have to budget for something that I thought was already covered. That's the only reason I asked for this to be moved. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, let me just follow up on that. So just to be clear, the facts and findings indicate that this supplemental agreement will authorize the consultant to prepare 100% construction plans, specifications, estimates, and complete record survey for the project. And so the previous scope of services didn't include all of that. It included it up to 99%. Is that what we're saying? And this 60,000 is the additional 1%? Or sorry, this 80-something thousand, 87,000.
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, that is correct.
Okay, here's my question. According to the staff report, there's 60,000 in the budget for this project. They're asking for 87. In a case like this where, you know, the 100% was, you know, presumptively, we know that we're getting there. We got to get to a 100% design before we build the thing. And so normally we put in the budget the money to do that. Could we not just simply say, well, you want 87,000, we can give you 60 because that's what's in the budget?
President Gold and Commissioner McKinney, actually, in this case, this is unique because record of survey will be done a little bit early because construction is programmed in 2029. So we're actually adding to what would be, you know, kind of a normal scope. It's 100% design plus record of survey services, which would maybe, you know, kind of fill that delta that you're asking about, the additional maybe 30,000.
So what you're saying is the scope of work is actually increasing.
It's, yes, we're completing something now that because construction is programmed in 4 more years, by rule and law, we need to get it done now, the record of survey services. So.
And so normally we would have to pay for that separately? Is that what
That's
you're
correct.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And so basically you're saying that justifies an additional 27,000, blah, blah, blah. I could imagine a survey costing that much. So that's not necessarily wildly out of the realm. So in any case, those are my questions as well, because it has to do with, you know, all right. I'll stop talking. Thank you.
You bet.
Great. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering?
I'll move that we approve Fairview Avenue and Locust Grove Road and Fairview Avenue, Locust Grove Road, State Highway 55, Eagle Road, Consultant Design Supplemental Agreement number 11.
I'll
as
second
presented.
that.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion?
Just, Madam
Commissioner
President,
Nielsen?
I just want to thank you for the background information. I went through that and resetting the number of monuments and all of that. I thought that supported the request, so.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that moves us to discussion items, public communications. Do we have anybody in person or online who would like to address the commission? All right, seeing none and no other business, we are adjourned.